The last edition that we had, we did it in Mzuzu, and it was interesting to meet journalists from Mzuzu. And this week we are here. Just arriving is the chief advisor to the president on manifesto implementation and the strategy and also international partnerships, Mr. Chris Chaimabanda. He is always with us. Just stand so that people may see you. He always comes and attend these meetings. We don't take that for granted. Chief Advisor, thank you very much. Also having you in the house, we feel secure. So thank you very much that you are here this morning. This is how we will proceed this morning. We will have the President's diary for last week and this week, and then we will take some questions, and thereafter we will go. Allow me at this juncture to welcome all Malawians watching us from Kamuzu Palace, and those of you who are also listening to us on radio. We want to thank you for tuning in and for being with us this morning. As I said, it pleased His Excellency to give us the mandate that we can talk on his behalf, telling Malawians what his administration is doing. It's very important for us to do this because we owe our allegiance to the people. So the people need to know what their president is up to. So on that note, it is my pleasure to invite Mr. Sean Kampondeni, who handles the president's diary. And there is no better person to explain to us what the president is doing than him, because he handles the president's diary. And apart from that, Mr. Kampondeni is also the director for the Department of Communications here at the Palace. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sean Kamponde.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, good morning, and thank you, Mr. Brian Banda, Press Secretary to the President, for the opportunity to update Malawians on some of the activities the President has been up to this past week, as well as some of his engagements this coming week. As a matter of custom, I usually have some updates related to the weekly brief, as well as some of the news items that have been making the rounds either in the press or in the social media. And so I'd like to begin with an announcement related to the weekly brief. The weekly brief, as you know, is today in its 11th edition. And I would like to announce that we are going to run the weekly brief for 4 more editions up to the 15th edition, which is going to be on the 14th of December. And then the weekly brief will take a break for the Christmas holidays and New Year's 3 weeks in a row. So we will not have the weekly brief on Monday, the 21st of December, nor on the 28th, nor indeed on the 4th of January. And the weekly brief will return on the 11th of January, which is the second Monday of the new year. And as was our plan, in the new year, the weekly brief will take on a new format. The 11th of January will mark exactly 6 months since President Chakwera swore into office his cabinet and gave the cabinet members of his administration a period of time in which they would be given KPIs, key performance indicators, by which they would be measured after the probationary period of 5 to 6 months has elapsed. And so in the new year, from January the 11th, the weekly brief, as had been our plan all along, is going to focus on bringing members of the Chakwera administration in succession at various points of the brief to the brief so that they can update Malawians on the progress of some of the key promises of the Tonse administration from the campaign. And so That is a little bit of an update about some changes you can anticipate. The first one being the break that we're going to take over the Christmas break for 3 weeks. And the second being the new format we are going to follow in the new year to allow Malawians to get updates on some of the service delivery by various cabinet portfolios and ministries across the administration. Also in the new year, the weekly brief is going to be happening not on a weekly basis, but on a fortnightly basis. So it will be held on the second Monday and fourth Monday of every month. And this is necessitated by the fact that because the format is going to focus on updating Malawians on the status of service delivery by various ministry portfolios, then it gives us time to gather all of the programmatic information related to those ministries and some of the things that are being done around the country in service of the Malawian people, so that when we do the weekly brief, we can do so in a comprehensive manner about how the administration is doing in the course of delivering on its promises. So those will be the changes coming up, and Malawians can look forward to an even more improved format that gives them information that touches on their livelihoods and their well-being, because we do not just want to be using this platform to field questions that are for the satisfaction of the curiosity of the press. Ultimately, our service is to the Malawian people, and the thing that's most pertinent to Malawians is this administration delivering on its promises to the Malawian people, and what is the status of the promises that Malawians were made in view of the programs that are being rolled out by the administration. So that's just a quick announcement about changes coming to the weekly brief in the near future. Now, I would like to move ahead to matters that have been dominating the media space, whether with regard to social media or the press. I believe that the elephant in the room has to do with certain media pieces that have dominated public discussion with relation to the president's trip to South Africa. Members of the public will recall that President Chakwera left Malawi on Thursday, the 12th of November, out of Kamuzu International Airport, flew into the Waterkloof Military Base Airport in Pretoria to have bilateral discussions with his counterpart, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa. And he was accompanied on that trip with various members of his administration, including the Minister of Trade, Honorable Sosten Gwengwe, the Minister of Health, Honorable Kumbize Chipwanda, as well as Minister of Homeland Security, Honorable Richard Chimwendo Banda. He was also accompanied by the Minister of Gender and Social Services, Social Welfare, Honorable Patricia Kaliati. He was also accompanied by the Minister of Labor, Honorable Ken Kandodo. And he was also accompanied by the Minister of Finance, Honorable Felix Mlusu. And these were members that formed the delegation that the President took with him for those bilateral talks with his counterpart. And the President was keen on making progress on the signing of a memorandum of understanding on economic cooperation between Malawi and South Africa. And so he ensured that he was well supported by key members of his administration whose portfolios would be relevant to those discussions. And so on his return, His scheduled return from South Africa was at 1530 hours, 3:30 p.m. on Friday the 13th, and yet he was delayed in his departure from Pretoria for 7 hours and was not able to leave the country until 10:30 p.m. When he returned to Malawi and landed at Kamuzu International Airport, it was around 12:30 midnight. He was welcomed by the Vice President, Right Honorable Saulos Klaus Chilima, as well as other senior members of government, although he did not stay long on the tarmac because it was late in the night and he wanted people to be relieved to go and rest. Now, there are a couple of issues that are worth making some comment on because they have been dominating public discussion, and obviously they are matters of public interest because Malawians would like to know what happened. Now, as of this morning, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I'm sure those of you that are diligent in the press have received a statement that has been issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as of this morning, and it has actually been posted on the Malawi government Facebook page. I would like to read that statement in its entirety in the event that Malawians or any members of the press have not come across it. And it addresses the issue of the President's delay and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs' position on the causes of the delay and what is being done about those causes. The statement reads, "The Ministry of Foreign Affairs wishes to inform the general public that the homebound departure of the plane carrying His Excellency Dr. Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera, President of the Republic of Malawi, and Her Excellency Madam Monica Chakwera, First Lady of the Republic of Malawi, was delayed by 7 hours on Friday the 13th November 2020. The plane was scheduled to leave South Africa at 15:30 and did not leave until 22:30 hours. Chief among the causes of the delay was the South African government's refusal to allow Malawi's advanced delegation to travel back home together with President Chakwera and his delegation, citing unspecified security reasons. The South African authorities' inexplicable refusal to let Malawi's president leave with his advance team came despite being informed of the arrangement in advance, in conformity to a similar arrangement made in all the countries President Chakwera has visited thus far. Dissatisfied with the vague security reasons given for the refusal, His Excellency the President decided that he would not travel back to Malawi without his advance team. In the impasse that followed, the Malawi delegation proposed to the South African authorities that only President Chakwera and his delegation should leave from Pretoria's Waterkloof military air base where their plane had landed, while the advance team should be picked up en route from OR Tambo International Airport. For no apparent reason, the South African authorities rejected this proposal as well. The Malawi delegation then spent the next 6 hours trying to reason with the South African authorities before the proposal was accepted. In retrospect, the Malawi delegation was justified in its dissatisfaction with the unspecified security reasons cited for the refusal. To begin with, President Chakwera's plane was parked at Pretoria Waterkloof Military Air Base, a highly secure facility under guard by the South African police throughout the visit. Secondly, at the time that Malawi's advance team was being barred from boarding the plane, their passports and luggage were thoroughly checked by uniformed police officers instead of South Africa's immigration officers. Thirdly, the entire delegation's luggage was loaded onto the flight by military personnel from the South African Defense Force. Fourthly, at the scheduled time of departure, from the military air base, there were dozens of South African security personnel on the ground who not only inspected the plane and its cargo, but also inspected every passenger on entry. The Malawi delegation complied with all these security measures out of deference to the vague security concerns of the South African authorities, despite the fact that the manner in which they were conducted and the delay caused breached diplomatic protocols commensurate with the dignity of President Chakwera's office and person. As such, the Malawi delegation was justified to dismiss as unacceptable and unsatisfactory the South African authorities' use of unspecified security reasons to hinder President Chakwera from leaving with his advance team. Even after agreeing to let the advance team board the plane at OR Tambo International Airport, the South African authorities subjected the team to additional security checks before and after boarding the plane, again without giving any specific security reasons. In fact, to date, those security reasons have not been communicated through formal channels. The government of Malawi is aware and grateful that a public statement was recently issued by the South African government, exculpating President Chakwera from false allegations dominating the South African media that his presidential plane was used as a conduit for trafficking 2 Malawians wanted by South African authorities. Notwithstanding, the government of Malawi notes with concern that the statement falls short of acknowledging that the treatment President Chakwera was subjected to upon his departure was improper and incongruous to the warm hospitality he received upon his arrival. So this is a statement that has been issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs this morning related to the incident that happened at the Waterkloof Military Air Base in Pretoria. And so for those of you that may have had any questions related to why President Chakwera was delayed, that was the cause of the delay, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs is yet to receive a formal explanation as to what these security reasons were. So that's the status related to the delay of the President on his return from South Africa. Now, the statement, as you will note, makes reference to another statement that was issued by the South African government. That statement was issued from the South African government's Office of Communications and Information Systems. And essentially, those of you that have seen it, which it was issued yesterday, and that statement essentially stated in no uncertain terms that the fake news that had been making the rounds in the South African press as well as in social media, that President Chakwera's plane was used as a conduit to traffic 2 Malawians who are wanted by the South African authorities, are categorically false and therefore should be relegated to the domain of fake news. And so we will have no further comment on that because that matter has already been clarified, even though, as far as we're concerned, it should never have been necessary to clarify that matter, because the very suggestion that President Chakwera would have a wanted individual or anybody wanted by the authorities in any country board his presidential plane in order for that individual to be trafficked back to Malawi. The idea is beneath the dignity of the office of the president, much less the dignity of the person of President Chakwera himself. And so it is unfortunate that those clarifications from the South African government, as well as from other quarters, have been necessary in this day and age. But that issue has been cleared up by the South African authorities, and as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has stated, Malawi authorities are grateful that that statement was issued. But we'll make no further comment on the same. Now, in a related matter, it is publicly known, at least by statements made by the individual in question who is wanted by the South African authorities. A statement was issued by that individual stating that he is in Malawi and stating that he is in the course of contacting the Malawian authorities in order to seek assistance with regard to his case, which he is wanted for and which he is meant to answer in the South African court and judicial system. As you know, that particular issue relates to matters of law enforcement. The South African authorities have made it clear that they are going to seek extradition assistance from the Malawi government. That touches on law enforcement. And the Malawi government is awaiting that kind of communication in order to work with their South African counterparts. But all of those issues have to do with law enforcement. And in this country, under President Chakwera, it has always been made categorically clear that law enforcement agencies work independent of the office of the president. And so we have no answers for any questions that have to do with what law enforcement agencies in this country are going to do about the situation, because it is not in the domain of the office of the president to decide what to do about a case that touches on law enforcement. Malawi has a police service. It has partnerships through Interpol with other police agencies in the region, and this is their domain. It is their job to handle this matter. And it is not the responsibility of the office of the president to be commenting on the same. And so we have no answers in any way, shape, or form as to what Malawian law enforcement agencies are going to do about the extradition request or what they are going to do about the presence of the individual in Malawi, because all of those things have to do with laws that have or may not have been broken, and it is law enforcement agencies that are responsible for determining and ascertaining what to do about those issues. And so those questions should be filtered to those agencies, because they are, under this administration, expected, resourced, equipped to handle those matters independently. And so that is as much as we can say about that. The president will not be involved because it has nothing to do with his office. He will not be involved. He will not hold meetings with anybody on the issue. He will not grant favors because it is not his domain to grant favors to anybody. And he will not issue directives as to what should be done about the situation. Law enforcement agencies will handle that matter according to their professional standards, in accordance with the law, and in accordance with their set procedures for criminal investigations. And when they have determined the matter and have ascertained what to do about it, I'm sure they will do their due diligence to brief the Malawian public accordingly. So that's a passing comment that I wanted to make on that issue, and hopefully that is clear enough. Now, there is one other related matter, and to be frank, this is slightly coincidental, but I know that it has generated some public interest, especially in the social media space. There have been some photographs that have been making the rounds, in which in the photographs is myself, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Eisenhower Mkaka, and a gentleman by the name of Mr. Sulugwe, who is a former employee of the same individual who is the person of interest in the matter that I just spoke about, as well as a South African gentleman, 4 of us. And it has been insinuated within the social media space that this photograph presents evidence that the Chakwera administration and the government was somehow involved in the transition of the person in question from South Africa to Malawi. Now, it has already been dismissed by the South African government that they are certain that this individual was not assisted by the administration to come here. However, suffice to say that with regard to that photograph, the photograph was taken on the evening of Thursday, which was the day the president and his delegation, of which I was part, arrived in the country. We had done our business for the country, and in the evening, I went by myself to the Menlyn shopping mall to take a walk and to have a look around. And as I was walking in the shopping mall, I met these individuals randomly in the middle of that evening. These are all Malawians with the exception of one gentleman. And as happens, and I'm sure most Malawians who have traveled abroad are familiar with this experience, that when you're traveling in unfamiliar lands and you are surrounded by foreigners and you meet a Malawian, any Malawian who speaks to you in Chakwera, it feels good to hear the language from home. And so this individual, who is not a friend of mine, with whom I have no relationship at any level of government business, greeted me because he recognized me from the weekly brief, and he expressed admiration for how we update Malawians on what's happening within their administration. So we greeted each other for a few minutes, and he asked for a photograph while I was with the Minister of Foreign Affairs. We took the photo and we went our separate ways. Anybody trying to generate a story from that incident is generating pure fabrications. There is no there, and that is all there is to be said about it. All right, with your permission, I would now like to proceed and give you an update on the President's activities over the last week. As you know, on Monday, President Chakwera was in Mzuzu, and he presided over the inauguration of Flag Week in collaboration with the Malawi Council for the Handicapped, Makoha. That same day, Monday the 9th of November, he met with the Minister of Agriculture in order to get an update specifically about some of the glitches that have been experienced around the country with regard to the rollout of the Affordable Input Program for affordable fertilizer. He also met with members of Mzuzu constituency, and later met with members of Freedom Party, which is an alliance partner. The president then met with councillors from Mzuzu City for a presidential conference. You might recall that back in late August, President Chakwera issued a radio address. I believe it was on the 25th of August when he issued that address. And in that address, he promised that he would have 3 conferences with councillors of the 3 cities in order for them to brainstorm on some of the transformation that needs to take place across the cities. So that was Monday the 9th of November. On Tuesday the 10th, President Chakwera returned from Mzuzu to the capital. And that afternoon when he returned, he met he was scheduled to meet with the Minister of Natural Resources in order to prepare for the National Cleanup Day. This is Honorable Nancy Tembo, which was going to take place the next day. And then the next morning, on Wednesday, the 11th of November, President Chakwera received U.S. Ambassador to Malawi, His Excellency Mr. Scott, and who was taking leave of the president in order to return to his country to report to D.C. And then shortly after that meeting, the president proceeded to Chinsapo, where he joined the vice president in participating in the launch of the National Cleanup Day, which is going to be an activity to take place on the second Friday of every month. And the president has appealed to all Malawians to participate in the same. Later that day, the president met with the Minister of Education, Honorable Nyalonje, Agnes Nyalonje. As you know, the president, in the week before that, he had issued very strong directives as to what to be done, what should be done about the debacle at the Malawi National Examination Board. And so he wanted to get an update on the same and to follow up on some of the directives he had issued. Then at 3 p.m. on that Wednesday, the president met with the Pan-African Parliament's acting president, Honorable Jamel Boras, as well as members of his delegation. And so that took place here at Kamuzu Palace. And the president closed off his day on Wednesday, the 11th of November, by having a meeting with the Minister of Energy, Honorable Newton Kambala. on that occasion. And then on Thursday morning, the president departed for South Africa, and he spent the next 48 hours there, held bilateral talks with his counterpart, Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, President of South Africa, as well as their delegation. And on Saturday morning, the president went to Kamuzu Academy, where he presided over the Founders' Day. He was accompanied by the Vice President, Right Honorable Saulos Klaus Chilima. He was also accompanied by the First Lady, as well as several members of the administration, including Honorable Agnes Nyalonja of the Ministry of Education, who asked the president to address the gathering on the occasion. And then later that day, the president delivered his weekly radio address to Malawians, in which he gave some updates related to COVID-19, encouraging Malawians to continue observing social distancing, wearing masks, and washing hands. And I observe that in this audience, for example, there are 2 people wearing masks. And this is something that I would like to strongly admonish you to 3 people wearing masks. I would like to strongly encourage you and urge you to sustain, because as members of the press, we're in the media, we're visible to Malawians, we set an example for Malawians. And so the president issued that address on Saturday. He wants us to keep washing our hands, keep maintaining social distance, and he wants us to keep wearing our masks. So please, if I could make an appeal to Malawians, let's follow the guidelines of the health experts, just as the president does, because it's all done out of goodwill to save lives. And so far, we have been very fortunate and blessed as a nation to have so many people that have recovered from COVID-19 and not so many fatalities as other countries have experienced. Sunday morning, the president went to church, as is his custom, and in the afternoon, which was yesterday, the president left the capital city to go to Mangochi to have 3 nights of retreat and to rest. As you know, he has been going at it for the better part of the last 3 years without a break, and so he has elected to go with the First Lady to Chikoko Bay State Lodge, where he will be resting for the next 3 days. He will return by the end of the day on Wednesday in order to be back in the office on Thursday morning. And when he does return, he is going to preside over the graduation ceremony at Luana, which is going to take place that Thursday. I believe that that Thursday is going to be the 19th of November. And then on the 20th, the president is going to participate with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the World Children's Day, which is under the auspices of UNICEF. And so that takes us through to the end of the week. And on Saturday, obviously, he will deliver his weekly radio address on a subject matter of his choosing. And so these are some of the highlights from the president's diary. And I'd like to invite the press secretary to come and take your questions on any other matters I may have left out or any matters you might need clarification